Ciao, Stefano. Ciao,
Hello,
Stefano.
Alexis. How you doing?
All right, how you doing?
Yeah, fine. We're doing it again. So
All right. This is
let's
our
get it
second
started.
episode of the 15-minute Share It, where we spend no more than 15 minutes talking about interesting things we're doing with SolveIt or interesting things that we see other people are doing with SolveIt and just sort of sharing what we learned or what seems kind of cool.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna try to make the 15 minutes. So let's kick off.
I'm
Okay.
leaving in 15 minutes, so it's definitely going to be 15
That's a
minutes.
game. That's a game.
Okay.
Okay, so today's episode is about the three mermaids. And so the three Mermaid.js actually. And so we're gonna see like a three different way to integrate the Mermaid.js library. And what is Mermaid.js library? Mermaid.js
I, I
library is
actually I actually I actually have a fourth mermaid that I can tell you about if you
okay.
go back. Yeah.
Okay, let's make the first one. We can add even an image. Oh, you're gonna tell the story about how we make the image too later. It's gonna be fun. So, what's Mermaid? For the one that doesn't know that, it's a pretty famous library in JavaScript that's meant to help you deal with diagram and charting tool. And actually, it creates its own language, a domain-specific language, DSL, that lets you describe, chart, and represent them graphically. And the power of DSL is a pretty important topic because it gives you like a high level description, semantic description, and very compact of a lot of kind of different charts. And I'm pretty sure that if you upload to a language model a description of a chart in terms of Mermaid is more meaningful to the language model than adding an image to it because it's like really showing all the dependencies of the things.
Yeah, this is a good point actually. One of the things that Jeremy has pointed out a few times is that when you see people using AI to make, for instance, really amazing 3D games, the reason they're able to do that is not because the AI is so smart, it's like writing all the 3D code. The reason they're able to do that is because there's already this library called 3JS, which provides a really nice high-level abstraction for doing 3D games. And I think that point holds generally. Like the AIs are kind of like us. Like they may have more horsepower in some ways, but they also benefit from being given simple, high-level interfaces. And I've tried creating diagrams in SVG, and it sort of works. But if you create a diagram in Mermaid, it works a lot better in terms of what an AI can generate, also a person. Anyway,
Exactly.
keep going, keep
Like
going.
the number of lines of text you need to make a chart like this in like SVG is like 10 times more than the 4 or 5 lines that you can see here. Of course, like Mermaid has this lot of different kind of charts that you can use it. And interesting stuff is that it's even supported by default on GitHub. So I don't know if you know it, you can just open like a simple markdown code block into GitHub, name it Mermaid, and just put it there, whatever description in your PR, in your documentation, whatever you want. And even README, I think. Cool. So let's get it started where we were. So you want to tell about
Wait,
this
wait, I
story?
got one more question. Why should
Yeah,
I
sure.
care? How would I want to use Mermaid? I've got my opinion here, but I wonder what yours is. Like, do you have an example of a single time it was actually useful for anything for you?
I uses this all the time. Like for example, when I'm reading the document, I usually like start with like a mind map, having a high level overview of what's going on. Like I don't know, reading the Eric book. Let me a mind map of the chapter, just to have an idea what's going on here, just even before
Okay.
starting. Or I don't know, let me try to understand. I got this long thread of email. What is going
All
on?
right.
Please make me like
Sounds
a
like we
Gantt
don't have
chart.
sounds like you don't have an example to show right now. So maybe we'll do that later. But
Oh
just
yeah,
show me
yeah.
what you
We're
got
gonna have a
here.
lot of examples to show. Yeah, let me
All right.
let me dive one. Sorry, I understand in like in general this. So, okay. We got this three mermaid. Actually, like your modified prompt. I was starting from like this ancient Greek siren image, and you say, oh, but we're telling about cell magic. We're telling about tools. So why don't you change it? So at the end of the day, this image is actually the cell magic mermaid, so something that the user will use into a cell magic. And instead, the tool and the prompt is something that will affect how the LLM behave and integrate into Mermaid.js. So let's get it started. So for the sake of the presentation and for the trying to be within the 50 minutes, I actually cherry pick all the exact example that we're going to need. So let's start in finding the mermaids. So to find the mermaids, we're going to use always the great
Okay, let's see
idea.
it.
Yep, solve it. Just put mermaid here, and you're gonna see all the dialogues. And let's jump into the first one. That's from David again. And yeah, again, David is like very into the cell magic stuff. And actually, what you see here is exactly all the code you need to create a cell magic that works like this. So you can
Do you
create a
have
new
a
cell.
gist for that? I want to try
Sorry?
something. Do you have a gist for that? Well, we can share
No,
it
you don't
later,
have
but
the gist. We have just the dialogue. This is David dialogue. I just like crop that thing and put into the slide just to
okay,
be more
cool.
effective. Yeah. In this presentation. And again, this is exactly this. In the link, you're going to find the complete dialogue. You can
Okay.
dive in. We're going to see it later. And yeah, once you define the cell magic, you can actually use the Mermaid language, the Mermaid DSL, to create whatever kind of chart you want. And simply like this, very compact. But you are doing this. So let's take a look an example in the David notebook. So mermaid example, this one is from him, is here. This is a flow chart, or this is a Gantt chart. And again, once you show this to the SolveIt language model, you can actually add this I inserted. When you see yellow, usually it's like that we inserted this into the dialogue of the people we're showing. And so this is actually, can you make an percent with a mind map summarizing the actual document dialogue content, like what I was describing at the beginning. And so this is made by the LLM. The LLM, few shot way again, understand how we want it. And now we need to copy the code and pass into a new cell and run the new cell. And we're going to have like an overview of what's going on before. So it's
Right. So we got two things here. One, we have that percent is an example of using what's called an IPython magic to
yes.
define a new kind of content put that you can put in a code cell and that can be evaluated. And what
Yeah.
you showed earlier was how to define the magic that gives you the new percent type of cell input. And then the second thing here is pointing out that the AI is smart enough to realize that it can now do this and then just tell you what you should put in a cell. And
Exactly.
I'd say that the third point here is that, what's Mermaid good for? I find if I'm trying to understand a system that has a lot of moving parts, it's easier to see a picture. And AIs are they're not 100% reliable, but they're extremely useful in
Yeah.
like quickly generating a picture to help understand what's going on. And you can also specify, I've had good success specifying particular kinds of diagrams. You can say, hey, I want a UML sequence diagram. And the AI is not going to shame you for liking UML. It's just going to make a UML sequence diagram. And then
Yes,
you give it to other
that's
people and you don't tell them it's a UML sequence diagram. And they're like, hey, that's great. I like it. And then you're like, yeah, you like UML. You just didn't admit it.
and the good point is that it's giving you the source code of this diagram, and you can modify
Right.
it. If you don't like this text-based stuff, you can go there and change it, and you can have agency in modify. I don't like the title, or maybe I want like a horizontal or vertical flow chart. You can start bootstrapping your
We're
visualization
at
this way.
halftime, by the way. We're at halftime.
I
We got
know.
eight minutes and then
I
we're
looking at
gone.
the time too. So cool. Okay, we made the first, and this was like the magic, mermaid magic. And so let's jump to the second one. The second one is the tool. And so always like before, I just cherry pick all the code you need to create a tool that solve it, or like maybe even Claudette, Cosette, Lisette, whatever, like uh, fast AI way of dealing with language model can use. And so let's try to dive a little bit more because this is like slightly different than before. The tool is something that the AI can decide to use as a tool calling thing. And so let's check it out. At the very beginning of this cell, there is a statement that is injected at the beginning. When you run the cell for the first time and you define the tool, you actually call this. And this is displaying HTML. So adding this HTML node to the SolveIt page that you're looking, okay? To this HTML page that is within SolveIt. And so you're actually loading the Mermaid library from CDN. So not too special, but you need it. And after that, you have a tool definition. a tool definition is simply like a function that is returning. In this case, I decided to return a dictionary with two components. One is the HTML graph, and the second is the HTML run. I keep them separated because I want that the HTML graph, this is the one to be added where you want to display the chart. So instead, before we have the percent something that we do on your own, here we have a language model that during the response can decide to inject a chart because he likes it or he wants it. And he can inject more than one chart. It can inject whatever you think it needs in that moment. And so this is the part that describes the graph. So describe like it's actually a div
Can
that
you show an
contains,
example? I don't understand.
we're going to see it. We're going to see it.
Okay, let's
And
see
then
the
the second
example.
one is this part is the execution of Mermaid and the transformation of that div into a chart that needs to be run once at the very end of the response. And so once you have a code like this, and you ask, oh, by the way, there's interesting stuff we can discuss later. That is the way we define
We
the
got 5 minutes,
parameter.
so we're not going to
Yeah,
discuss
man,
that
we're gonna
much
make it.
more. Maybe for next
And
time.
yeah, don't worry. And it's following the documents like way of annotating function. Let's jump for the next time. And once you have all of this, how you can use it. You can ask the LLM with a prompt, show me a simple flowchart with 3 nodes in Mermaid. And what's happening behind the scene, if you open the details, you're seeing this picture because the system is calling the tool Mermaid, the tool that we just defined. And this tool here is actually creating the like DSL description of this like top-down flowchart, and is returning you the HTML graph, and I crop it out, but is the HTML run that will be run at the very end of the cell. And so it's SolveIt deciding to do this, and you find the chart within your response. It's like it was marked down, but it's
So
actually
what
like
so why is it important to return those two things? I don't understand that. That seems
because you
quite
want
important.
that the HTML run is always at
Hmm.
the very end. You probably can run this as a single string and it figures out, but I prefer to keep them separate, and it works.
Okay, so that's like JS that's needed to cause the, in your experience, cause the
Yeah,
mermaid graph to be rendered properly. Okay. And
yeah
so by defining
we need
this,
to run.
okay, and by defining this function, it's a thing that SolveIt can call directly. So instead of
Yeah,
SolveIt telling you code that you should run, you see the chart outputs there in its response. That's very cool. I hadn't seen that before.
yeah. And so this is another thing. Make me a chart of the typical activity of the data science project, or like even
Nice.
this one is nice. I paste the picture and I asked the system to reimagine this picture into Mermaid. It was kind of like slightly
Yeah,
different,
okay, that's cool. I like
but
that.
it's give you the sense of what we
I'm
can
gonna
do it.
add this to my helpers. So so now we've seen
We got the last one, and we got very few
defining a
minutes.
tool.
I
Okay,
got
yeah, we don't
two
have much
minutes to
time,
make the
so
last one. The last one is crazy. The last one, okay, is a pure prompt. We don't define a
yeah.
function. We don't define nothing. But with the idea in mind that you want at the beginning, the install moment, where you tell the system to load the JavaScript library. You want the
Hmm.
graph moment where whatever you need a chart, you just put this into a div. You ask in the
All right.
system, make a div, and within a div, make a DSL, the definition of the chart. And at the very end, the run, like before, that you just actually say mermaid, render all the div with mermaid thing
Hmm.
inside. If you do something like this, it's kind of crazy because you ask the system, make me 3 flowchart with 3 nodes with horizontal layout and a title. It made the title. And this is, if you edit the response of the model, you will see this. You're actually describing how you want the HTML description. It's thinking like that, thinking this way.
So
SolveIt, it
one thing that
creates
surprises,
an
yeah,
HTML page with a mermaid inside from the ground up.
yeah. So I guess this is very cool. I have two questions about it though. One is, does it work reliably? I'd imagine it works less reliably than the tool because you're requiring the AI to do more work. In addition to generating the chart, they need to now wrap it in a particular way. The other thing that surprises me is that it works because I guess I shouldn't be, because what it indicates is that AI can emit, what the AI
Yes.
emits directly is
Oh
able
yeah.
to be treated as unsanitized content. Um,
It's from great power comes great responsibility. You know the story all the time.
Mm.
So we actually are in SolveIt. We are actually rendering whatever HTML is spit out from the AI. So this is a thing kind of concerning, but yeah, again, take a look at what you're doing
I
and
will admit I'm a little
try to
surprised
do
that it
not
works that
import,
way.
try to do not
Yeah.
import like sources that you don't really know.
Yeah.
Sorry about the prompt injection thing. So yeah, on top of this is like it's powerful. It lets you do something like this in a pure prompt. You don't even import any code. You just import this bunch of text and you
Yeah.
enable Mermaid.
That's not how I'd want to use it regularly, but I think that's very interesting that that works. So let me tell you a little backstory that you don't know.
Let's do
Or do
it.
you have another slide you want to share? Or
No,
I think this
I'm
is
done.
probably okay.
This
So
was
go
like the
back to
very
your
last one. I did the
go
three
back to your
mermaids.
three mermaids, and I'll tell you a secret about a fourth mermaid that you didn't know about. Um, so with your three mermaids, you got the user-defined REPL or IPython magic, right? That was the first mermaid. I think you're still showing the solve it. Can you show the three mermaid picture?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So there's the kind of user-defined cell magic, which is Python that defines a command that causes the notebook to render mermaid code if you use %%mm. You have the tool use where you're defining a Python function that the AI can call, and then you get the mermaid output rendered as part of the AI's output. And then you have the prompt mermaid where you just use prompt, and then the prompt output is itself surprisingly like directly rendered. So there's a fourth one that came first that you don't know about, which is that in Answer AI, Tommy made a Chrome extension, which does nothing but like do automatic mermaid rendering for outputs in the dialogue. And you know, it's not something we release publicly
It
because I
was like
didn't know.
something like GitHub style, like this. In you can. It
Man,
was
I don't know. You'd have to talk to
injected.
him
I don't
about it.
know.
All I know is he created a Chrome extension. I installed it, and then I needed to modify it a little bit so it'd work with different domains. And I was modifying it, and it works, and that's great. But it's interesting that we made a whole GitHub extension not realizing that you could do it without a GitHub extension, just using cell magics and tools. So it goes to show that, well,
Yeah.
maybe we're a little bit a bunch of knuckleheads, but also that um, this system is like so like hackable and flexible that there's sometimes like lots of ways to do something, and there's sometimes a way that's like much simpler than you might have realized. And like looking at this, I would say the cell magic and tool are both ones I'm going to remember, and the prompt one I'm going to scratch my head about, and probably I won't use the extension again. But this is very cool. I'm going
Okay.
to have to show
Yeah.
something next time because you prepared so much.
Yeah,
This,
but we need to do the 18-minute share because the 15 is so difficult.
you know, we're already up to 17, man. We're already up to 17. All right.
Okay. Okay.
Till next
Thank you
time.
so much. See you next time.
Ciao.
Bye.